Hey everybody, today I wanted to talk about the Canon 5D Mark IV specifically as a video camera. Now, the video features on the 5D Mark IV, there are a few things that are definitely weaknesses, and I'll address some of those at the end of this video. But what is it that makes the 5D Mark IV a good video camera that nobody is talking about? Number one, first thing, is its 4K bitrate. So the bitrate, or how fast a camera can write to its memory cards, the speed is typically proportional to the quality. And what we're seeing in other DSLR and mirrorless hybrid cameras, typically we're at about 100 megabits per second, some cases 200 megabits per second. GH4 will do that. The 5D Mark IV I've clocked it at over 530 megabits per second. So I know a lot of people are complaining about the file size. The speed at which it records video in 4K is impressive. At HD, it's about 180 for 60 frames per second and about 90 megabits per second for 30 frames per second. So that's the first thing, is if you use megabits per second as a measure of quality, something to keep in mind. Second thing, now I know there's a lot of people complaining about the MJPEG format, that it's clunky, that it's old, that it's hard to use. This is an intra-frame form of compression, which means every image is compressed individually in those 30 frames per second. Something that's really good about this that nobody is talking about is that this is a lot easier for the processor to generate these files. Now there's also IPB, which is inter-frame compression, which is very common in other cameras, where it looks at the frame before it and the frame after it, looks for differences and compresses it accordingly. The problem with that, even though the file size is more efficient, is that it puts a huge load on the processor. So when the processor has to look at every frame before and after it 30 times per second and compress it, processors get hot. So one of the tests I like to do when a camera first comes out is take a look at how hot the camera gets. And the Canon 5D Mark IV is one of the coolest 4K recording cameras I have ever tested. 93 degrees Fahrenheit after 20 minutes of 4K video recording. That's really awesome. There are some great Sony cameras that have incredible features and they overheat commonly. Okay, this is often. So it's a really nice feature to have a 4K camera that is not overheating. And I think a lot of this has to do with the MJPEG taking a lot of the load off of the processor. Third thing that nobody's really talking about is the internal 8-bit 422. Now there are several cameras that can do this, but it has to be done through an HDMI cable out to an external recorder. Because the Canon 5D Mark IV does this internally, technically you don't need an external recorder to get that 8-bit 422. So what does 8-bit 422 mean? It basically means you're going to have twice as much color information as you would versus 8-bit 420, which is what most DSLRs and mirrorless cameras are recording to internally, at least at the time of this recording. I have a feeling this is going to change. But if you don't need an external recorder and you're getting that high quality internally, that is a great thing. The fourth thing that should definitely be mentioned is the dual pixel autofocusing related to the touch monitor. It's really nice. The tracking is really, really good. But the thing that I thought was impressive about it was now that we have the ability to tweak the speed and the sensitivity of how fast this tracking or touching on the screen works. So if you go into the video menu, you can adjust the speed of this, and that's really nice. So typically if you are focusing the camera a lot, that often requires another person, referred to as the first AC, first camera assistant. The 5D Mark IV, I don't think in every case you can get away with it, but in many cases, I don't know if you would need one, simply because you can touch on the screen, you can pull focus that way. You don't need the rig to pull focus. You save money, you save footprint, so it's a smaller package that can do things that typically we would have to have these other accessories to do. Finally, the last thing I think the 5D Mark IV stands out on video is its color science. Canon, in my mind, has the best color science coming straight out of the camera. And when you have that, there's less need for tweaking in post. And I think that's a really good thing. coming back to some of the complaints, and I'll have another video coming out about this, a lot of reviewers are saying that the crop factor and the file size are a deal breaker as a video camera. I don't really subscribe to that. I think there's a reason that cameras have crop factors. Is it a little inconvenient? Sure, yeah. I mean, we all want the very wide field of view, but it's not a deal breaker. And the thing about the video files is that if you are recording in higher quality, so faster bitrate, better color depth, 8-bit 422, intra frame, so single frame, of course the file sizes are going to be bigger. It's kind of a moot point because in a year or two from now, we might look back at the 5D Mark IV and say, man, those file sizes were teeny tiny. I have a 512 megabyte CF card that when I bought it, I was laughing to myself because I said, I will never need a bigger memory card. And now, several years later, it's like, I can't even use it. So file size, not really a deal breaker. If you still don't believe me, take a look at the file sizes of raw video at 4K. Tremendously huge file sizes. I think some of the weaknesses that really stand out on the 5D Mark IV in terms of video are the rolling shutter. It's pretty bad. It's bad as the A6300 Sony. I do wish there was a different form of compression at 4K. I thought that was a mistake, that Canon should have done that to give us at least the option. There are a couple other little things, but the image quality, to me, it's amazing. And that's what it comes down to in terms of a video camera. So is it a good video camera? Absolutely. You just got to be set up to handle the large files and accept the fact that a crop factor is actually okay. It's kind of normal if you look at video cameras. In any event, those are the top 5 things that I think are awesome about the Canon 5D Mark IV's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you found this video helpful, you might be interested in my new Canon 5D Mark IV crash course. I'll teach you the basics and show you how to shoot like a pro in no time. You can order it from the following link.